This is the Cal 101 podcast on Cape Atlantic Live. Here's your host, Nick Kosko.
What's going on, everybody? It's the Cal 101 podcast right here on Cape Atlantic Live, presented by Ulmer's Appliance Service. I'm your host, Nick Kosko, and with me today is head coach Andrew Bristol of Ocean City as we continue our baseball preview series here in the spring of 2024. Coach, appreciate you joining me. I can only imagine that you guys are looking forward to this year as you are considered one of the top contenders here in the Cape Atlantic League.
Oh, thanks, Nick. Appreciate that.
So let's dive right into it. 13-11 last year, made it to the South Jersey Group 3 quarterfinals last year. Tough loss to Delsea, but you guys returned 3 starters that were obviously key contributors from 2023. Coach, what can you say about this year's squad, and what have you seen so far from spring training, so to speak?
Yeah, so we have, like you said, 3 back. We have a lot of young guys that have to step up now. But when you have the 3 that are coming back, you feel pretty good. I feel real good about our pitching. You know, Evan Taylor, obviously one of the top players in the state, if not the league. And you have Matt Pashley coming back, and you have Danny Lizer coming back. And then I have 2 pitchers that really saw a lot of time, especially early in the year. You have junior Travis Large and sophomore Cam Street on the mound also.
So looking at this team right now, usually a lot of these contenders in the Cape Atlantic League are, veteran savvy, or they have a lot of young guys that have a lot of talent, ones that have been hyped up for years on end. So what makes this team stand out for you guys this year?
So I think what makes us stand out this year definitely is our pitching. You know, we have, like I said, I mentioned those guys. You have Evan Taylor, who's verbally committed to Alabama. Then you have Matt Pashley, who's signed a letter of intent to play at Philly U. And then you have Travis Large, who's a Division I prospect right now as a junior. And Cam Street, he's a 6'5" sophomore, who's also a Division I prospect. So when you have that kind of a front staff, then you have a Nolan Bouchard, who's a Division II pitcher. So I have 5 pretty good arms. Whenever you have that many good arms on a high school baseball team, you find ways to score runs, which is what we're going to try to do, and you feel good about being in every game, and then see what happens from there.
Now, when you say you have 5 arms in that rotation, that seems like, I don't want to say it's unusually deep for a high school squad or even a good high school squad, but usually those teams have, they have 2 guys that are your hammers in the rotation, sometimes 3, but you're pretty confident, it seems, that you're going to have 5 guys out there that can really go out there and start games and win you a lot of games, it seems.
Yeah, I think so. All 5 of them saw varsity action last year, and significant varsity action against quality teams. So I think that, I feel real confident with them. I think they're going to kind of stretch their innings out even more this year. Evan last year was really more of a closer, but this year he's going to be a front-end starter, and I think that's going to really help us and keep us in every game.
I wanted to hit on Evan Taylor. Obviously, he has been one of the spotlighted players coming into this season, being the Alabama commit, one of the best players in the state, as you already alluded to. Now, I know he already described himself as more of a hitter, but you just mentioned how he's going to be more of a front-end starter this season. Right. What was that change like in the offseason? Was that a mutual decision? Is that what you wanted him to do? Is that what he wanted to do? How did that conversation come about?
So he kind of, that was something I wanted him to do, but he approached me, actually, to be honest, first, and said he wanted that. And I've always had good arms. I've had some really talented kids and kids who went on and pitched at a pretty high level. But one of my major things has always been to protect those arms and not do too much with them, and kind of let them grow. So here he is as a junior now. He was a sophomore last year. I don't want to put a million miles on that arm. So we lose a couple of big arms, 2 D1 arms. And so he wanted that. He wanted to be that front-end guy. And really he's the face of the team now. So this is something that I wanted to hear. He wanted it. And, we knew this a while ago.
How does a kid like that embrace expectations? You just called him the face of the team.
Right.
It's a lot of pressure for a young
Yeah.
kid. I know he just turned 17, he's a junior now, still has 2 years of high school left, 2 seasons to go before he ends up playing college baseball, or who knows, maybe he even gets drafted.
Yeah.
How does he embrace that type of role?
That's funny you asked me that, because we had this conversation last week where we talked about that, and we talked about these expectations and everybody putting all this hype on you. And I told him that our main focus is to never lose sight of the fact that you love to play this game of baseball, and you've loved to play since you were probably 6 years old, and that can't ever change, right? So you have to just remember that it's always about the love of the game. You play it, it's a game. That's why it's called a game, and to always have fun with it. And if you can't, then it kind of loses its purpose. So we stress that, and I'm going to protect him from that and make sure that, that's my job, to protect him, to make sure that this is a game and that he has fun playing it. And he does. He loves to play baseball. That's his thing. And so that's going to be the focus, and try to kind of get away from that whole, once this season starts now, let's forget the hype and let's just play and have some fun.
So when you mentioned protecting players like him or even others, I know a lot of these guys in high school, they're your big arms in your rotation, but they can obviously contribute a lot offensively, which is what you want to do this season. How do you protect those guys physically and mentally when it's like, all right, we need you to go out there. Maybe we need you to give us 4 to 5 really strong innings, maybe even 6 innings. How do you manage that compared to other days where it's like, okay, we need like 2 or 3 good hits out of you, maybe driving some runs? What's that balancing act like?
So I think that our success has always been, we're going to have good players, but our success really is upon the guys that you don't know of, the lesser known names. And I mean, we won a title with a kid who nobody knew. He was the third baseman, Jack Perry, and was like the hero of that playoffs. And so if you can get that, you kind of focus in on those unknown guys who can take off the pressures at certain times for those big players. And it's all about team bonding, and we started that from day one, and to rely and on your teammates, and to know that they'll pick you up at times, and because you're going to fail, and you'll pick them up at times because they're going to fail. So it's really kind of like a brotherhood, I would say. And yes, he's the face, but he can't do this by himself, and he knows that, and he knows how to be a good teammate. And I think that's the key.
So when you look at what your off season was like after last season, going into the summer, then of course when fall ball rolls around, again, you guys made a bit of a playoff run last year. What extra steps did you take in the off season to ensure that it's not another quarterfinal exit? I mean, you guys are only a couple years removed from a state title. How do you get back to something like that?
That's the key, right? So one of the things that we're stressing this year is let's not leave anybody at first base. So let's manufacture what we can. Let's move guys when we can, and just put a lot of pressure on that defense. So that's been our focus since the first day of practice, is that we're going to pressure you. We're going to come at you at all different angles, because we can't just sit back and wait for Evan Taylor to hit a 3-run homer, because that's not going to work. So every day we work on the fundamentals. We work on the little things, and our goal is to put pressure on you at every angle.
Now, in the offseason, I know some other teams take out-of-state trips. There's a certain fall ball they play. What do you guys do from that perspective?
So we just got back from Myrtle Beach. We were down there last week, and this year was a little bit different because we usually go to Florida, but this year, because of the way Easter was on, the break was, and the way you couldn't start playing till a certain time, so we had a smaller window, and we feel it's so important to go away as a team and to bond as a team. And we had team dinners down there. We spent the entire time together, and really to build that trust.
So looking ahead now, Coach, to this season, when you build a team camaraderie like that, how do you compare? And I know coaches don't like to necessarily compare teams, but how do you measure the camaraderie with this team where it's a little bit younger, maybe a little bit more inexperienced, but also very talented compared to some of the other loaded teams you had in the past?
So I think that this team, we talked about this today at practice. We were inside a little bit today, with the weather, but we talked a lot about that today, about this team and its everybody talks about culture, right? And in team sports, and we talked about what our culture was, and we talked about what kind of team this is, and this team is really going to be a team of guys that nobody really knows, but they're going to play together. And we had a little bit of what's the word I'm looking for? It's down in Myrtle Beach. We had a little bit of rough start in the way that the hotel rooms weren't booked right or something, and they had to overcome all that. And they were the way they handled things, that we were spread out, so we weren't together at first, but they handled it so well, and they showed me that this team really has a focus on what they want to do. And so really, this team, this is different than any other team, I would say, in that they've shown me since the beginning, since the first day, how focused they are. So they tasted it. They tasted it last year, and they didn't like that ending. So,
right. And I was talking to EHT's Brian Carmichael, and he mentioned the Myrtle Beach trip as well as a big. It's one of those big preseason trips, and when you're getting ahead of a season, and of course it builds the team, and it seems like there's a routine with it as well. Have you noticed a change in your team from when the trip started compared to when you guys got back, and now with opening day just right around the corner? Are the guys a little bit more jazzed up now?
Oh yeah, I think since we've been back this last few days, they're definitely more they're excited, right? That excitement on the practice field yesterday and the day before, you could see that. You could see that excitement. You could see you go away with guys and you spend the entire trip together. You can't help but get closer to each other, and they now they know each other a little bit better, like the juniors know the sophomores, and the sophomores know some of the freshmen, and that team chemistry is built now, and that trust is built, I think.
When I'm looking at this team, coach, I like to evaluate how coaches basically mold their teams in their philosophy, their game plans, and what they want to accomplish. Some coaches are like, all right, we want to be a very offensive team. Our pitching is going to help us stabilize everything. And other teams are, okay, we want to be more pitching dominant. Where would you say the Ocean City falls here in 2024?
So there's two things that I always preach. And the first thing is that, I like to use this philosophy that you're going to play 7 games every time you step on that field. So 7 innings, that we treat every inning like a game. And so you try to win every game, right? So you win 7 games in that 7 inning time span, you're gonna win the game. So we try to break it down into smaller pieces and really kind of focus in on that. And then the second thing that I always preach is that in high school baseball, especially where we are, where it's cold in these early months, it takes 3 things to win a baseball game. In my philosophy, it's pitching, defense, and timely hits. You don't have to get a lot of hits, but they have to be timely. Like you could win a lot of games with maybe 4 hits if they're the right hits. So if you play defense, which we practice every day, we take ground balls and fly balls every single day, hundreds. If you play defense and you get the pitching, which I think we have, you're going to be in every game. And so you might just need that one hit with 2 outs and 2 runners on, or if you give. We used to say last year and the year before, you give us 3 runs, I think we can win a lot of games. And I still hold to that with my pitching. I think if you can give me 3 runs most of the time, we're going to be in or close to winning games that we can.
Do you think your team is better prepared for more pressure-packed situations? Because you mentioned the timely hitting, and again, we know at pretty much all levels of baseball, pitching is what's going to ultimately win in the postseason. But you mentioned the timely hits, and your pitching and your defense is kind of always there. But those timely hits, not a lot of teams can do that, especially in the clutch. And especially if a team is down, you mentioned not a lot of hits. Maybe a team gets 3 or 4 hits, but they get those runs across in the right manner. Is your team built for those pressure-packed moments?
Yeah, I hope so. So I think pitching for sure. Like you look at our division. You have us, the Prep, Mainland, EHT, Vineland, Millville, Buna. They're all teams with a lot of winning and a lot of success. And these kids pitched. Every one of those kids I mentioned pitched against those teams last year. So every time you stepped on the field in our division, it's a pressure situation, and every game was close. There was no blowouts really. So they've done that already. So I don't think there's a moment that's going to be too big for them.
The Cape Atlantic League itself, I've noticed, especially over the past couple of years, the rise of the top programs in this conference. I kind of alluded to how basketball was on the boys' side over the past couple of years. So you look at you just mentioned your side of the league right now. Mainland, Prep, Vineland, EHT, all those teams. Could you ultimately say this is one of the best areas for baseball in the state, particularly in South Jersey? It just seems like there are Division I prospects each and every year coming out of every single program.
Yeah, I think so. So I've had I've been very fortunate that I've been able to coach the Carpenter Cup the last few years. I mean, look at that. Look, we've won that Carpenter Cup 2 years in a row, and then we lost in the finals last year. So we're playing teams from Pennsylvania and Delaware and New Jersey, and we're winning that. And I think it goes back to, Mike Trout kind of put us on the map. And then look how long it's been since Mike Trout played in high school. Every kid who saw that decided when they were 8 years old, 9 years old, I really want to put a lot of emphasis and a lot of focus on playing baseball. And so our feeder programs are top notch. We have some top travel teams in the area that go on and play nationally. So I think it's all kind of goes together and really been successful for us because you have kids who really love the game and love to play a lot.
Ocean City head coach Andrew Bristol with me here on Cal One-on-One. Coach, I'll leave you here with this one. And I'm kind of circling back to what I asked you earlier about the expectations for this team and how to make a playoff run. Again, you guys are no stranger to playoff success, winning a state title back in 2021. What ultimately gets you off on the right foot this year to say, okay, this team is going to be ready for the moment when it comes to late May, early June, and then there's a state title on the line potentially down later in 2024?
So I think it comes down to what I try to preach to these kids is that I tell them you need to expect to win. Expect to win every game. And it doesn't mean you're going to win every game, but you have to step on that field and expect to win. And if you're prepared, which I think we always are, very prepared, if you're prepared, you put yourself in that position to expect to win. And so I think that they have that mindset. And our goal every year is to win a state title. It doesn't mean we're going to, but if you set the bar lower than that, then what do you really think you're going to achieve from their high school kids? So they have to believe in it. And it's my job and my coaching staff, and I have an unbelievable coaching staff. It's their job and my job to make them believe that and to prepare them for that. And I think we do a really good job of that. And I really think they believe that.
Well, Coach, good luck this season. Looking forward to watching you guys play. It's going to be a loaded slate of conference games, especially, you mentioned before, Mainland, EHT, Prep, Vineland, all teams. So good luck this year. Hope to see you down the line. And again, it was a pleasure talking to you.
Thank you, Nick. I appreciate you having me on. See you down the road.
Absolutely. All right. Cal One-on-One podcast right here on Cape Atlantic Live, presented by Ulmer's Appliance Service. Check out more of our content on the YouTube page. Make sure to like and subscribe as well. We'll see you next time.